morning and welcome to the AAFCA Best of 2020 recap, Best in Film. Today we'll be recapping our picks for the best Black films of 2020 with AAFCA Critics, which is the largest group of Black critics in the world. And we will be having this discussion led by our fearless leader, President of AAFCA, Gil Robertson, and I'll let you kick it off.
Thanks, Sharronda. In a year where Black film and TV has excelled, we wanted to celebrate the achievements we have had in Black film for 2020. Our critics will discuss AAFCA's top 5 picks and offer their insight and thoughts on the films. Let's first introduce our panel for this discussion. We have Kathia Woods from Philadelphia, Robert Daniels from Chicago, Sharronda Williams in Atlanta, and Edward Adams in Atlanta. The top films we're going to be looking at today are One Night in Miami, Ma Rainey, Black Bottom, The Five Bloods, Sylvie's Love, and Bad Boys for Life. So let's kick off this talking about One Night in Miami, directed by Regina King.
You brothers, you could move mountains without lifting a finger.
Minister Malcolm X.
Good news, the chariot is coming.
Who's the greatest? That's right.
Jim Brown takes the ball.
Your record is gonna stand the test of time.
All together, yeah. The entire city of Miami is celebrating. I'm the new heavyweight champion of the world, and I don't even have a scratch on my face. Oh my goodness.
Cash.
Cash?
Why am I so pretty?
Hey, congratulations, champ.
I could get used to that.
I was made in America, land of the free, home of the brave.
This movement that we are in is called a struggle because we are fighting for our lives.
Welcome to America.
This ain't about civil rights.
Welcome to America.
They ain't giving black people what they really want.
What's that?
Hey, I was made in America. That's why I'm out here saving America.
Power. Black power. I like the sound of that.
I wish I lived in America.
We have to be there for each other.
Heard everybody rich, all I gotta do is run, jump, kick, I'm a kid in your area. I done made it to America. I'm amazed at America. Welcome to America.
This is a beautiful, well-made film. I think it's a lot of pressure when you're someone like Regina King that the industry loves. She's directed television. This is her feature film debut. And this is also a play that was successful that people, it's always hard when people are familiar with a piece of work. But I think it translated beautifully towards the screen. We are familiar with some of the actors more than we are with the others. And I think she chose really well. What I loved about this film is that we don't get to see Black men dialogue and have honest discussions about being Black and also holding each other accountable in a respectful manner. You know what I mean? It's not, and they're not in prison. Everybody is out of prison. Everybody, you know what I mean? They're all successful men in their own right. And they're sharing amongst each other the struggles of what it's like to be a Black, especially in the 1960s. Like we have to remember the context of the time. We're coming slowly into civil rights, and all that comes with it. And again, I think it's beautiful even to see someone like Malcolm X being, held accountable, who in this film was very revolutionary, who's dealing with possibly breaking off with the Nation of Islam, you know what I mean? Who's trying to grapple between those two worlds. But again, I love that we have these men that speak unapologetically about their experiences and how they deal with being Black in America.
Yeah, I completely agree, Kathia, especially with regards to familiarity. When I think about Malcolm X, who's been played by Denzel, when I think about Muhammad Ali, who's been played a couple of times now, especially by Will Smith, those are Oscar-nominated performances, and yet this cast completely brings it. They don't feel like facsimiles, they don't feel like copies, they feel like real lived-in people, and the dialogue is so snappy. And they're talking about not just, it's jokey, obviously, they're in that one room for a lot of the time, but, as you said, they're talking about very weighty issues of the moment about, the different ways for Black liberation to come about. And it's an incredible, not just mood piece, but an incredible like philosophical argument that's going on that really affects, generations prior, generations going forward of how best to attain freedom.
Yeah, I agree with both of your points. One of the things that really stood out to me while watching One Night in Miami is really just that these prominent Black figures, from Malcolm X and, also too with Jim Brown, these like prominent figures in the Black community that we put on a pedestal. I think with Kim Power's screenplay, they really showcase them as humans. They're just men, they're friends, they get to have their guards down. A lot of times in the Black community, we always have to have our guard up. We always have to be ready for the next struggle. And I love how they have open and honest conversations about things that they are doing right, ways that they're not giving back to the struggle. I just love that about this movie, but also too, with the fact that this is based on a play, the fact that how Regina can put these characters into different parts of a hotel, or also two different parts of the city that they're in at that time in Miami. I love how you don't feel as though you're stuck or trapped into actually one room. But I just think that it's just amazing performances from the entire cast, powerful, powerful dialogue, executed very well. The acting is top notch in this film. And I think that is a very great first full feature from Regina King, and especially ushering in these great Black directors as well.
I think women have a very good intuition about intimacy, right? I feel like we are having a front row seat on a very intimate conversation. And it's like, it's like like we're flies on the wall, and it doesn't feel like we're being inquisitive or nosy. Do you know what I mean? Like, she is bringing us in at a beautiful pace. And I think that's what makes you engaged in the dialogue. You know what I mean? We got to talk about how she chose certain shots, the coloring, the costuming to fit each persona per se. Do you know what I mean? And I think all of that, along, of course, with the screenplay, pulls you in.
I haven't seen the movie, but let me pose a question and I'll let you guys answer it, if that's okay.
Sure.
So one of the things I find interesting when you read about this film and what Regina King wanted to bring to life on film, it is something that Kathia kind of mentioned, this idea of these individual men who have their own merits and yet are coming together in this kind of one mystical night. And what does it represent? And I was curious, because even when Sharronda, when you were mentioning your thoughts on it, there's something about how we project ourselves in public, and then there's our private personas. And I think I want your opinions about, as critics and how you view the film, did you see vulnerability?
Yeah, I would definitely agree about the vulnerability. I think the character that really stood out for me from that standpoint is Malcolm X. A lot of times when we are taught about Malcolm X in schools, that he is this militant civil rights leader, from what we've seen depicted in films and documentaries about him, by any means necessary, that he's been this violent leader. One of the things that stood out to me in this film is you get to see the human persona of him. You get to see the father that worries about, what he's doing, even though he's fighting for the struggle for, Black people all around the world, that, the dangers that this may have, not only for him, but for his wife, for his children, from, scenes as so simple of calling to check on his family, having a talk with his daughter when she's supposed to be in bed, even to that moment where we see him as a mentoring Muhammad Ali before he decided to convert to Islam. I think those are the important moments that we need to see, especially for our leaders, because I think sometimes even when we're putting people on a pedestal, we think that they're superheroes, which they are, but they're still human. They still fear, they're still sad, they're still scared at times. And I think that that's something that was portrayed so beautifully in this film.
To answer your question, and for me, I think it's the Sam Cooke character. I agree with Sharronda about Malcolm X, but I also think for me it's a Sam Cooke character because it is astonishing, and it's never lost on me that we have our entertainers who are entertaining white people and putting money in the pockets of white people. And we see this with another film that we're going to discuss, but they can't book a hotel room. They can't enjoy the fruits of their labor. Like if they do, like you work so hard to be successful. If you buy a flashy car, you're trying to be uppity. If you stay in a hotel, well, you're good enough to entertain us, but we don't really want you here longer than for you to do the tap dance. And also the idea that in order for you to be successful, which is something we still talk about today, that you need white people to navigate your career in order to let you into those spaces, right? And then you have hence the discussion about, is Sam Cooke authentically Black? Does he care about the Black community, or is he just about, wanting to fit in? Or as we would say today, he's just trying to be flashy. I mean, that in itself, like, why do we have to apologize or justify enjoying our success? Like, we can be bling blinged out, all of those things, and still be for our people. The two are not mutually exclusive. And I think, you definitely, any of us who've had any type of success, you treat yourself and it's like, oh, you better, like, we feel a little bit of guilt about that. So to me, that's the one character where I'm like, we still are having that discussion today.
So this sort of makes me think about Paul Laurence Dunbar and the whole idea of going beneath the mask. So you're saying, Ed, that in offering us this fictitious evening, that with these four social and cultural icons, that Regina is unmasking them and letting us see the real men that they are, with real world concerns, and just see them as three-dimensional people.
Absolutely. I think when you,
because like you, I haven't seen the film either. I mean, much to Amazon's regret, I just haven't. I'll see it. I'll watch it before.
I can't wait to see it. But but it leads to something historical, right? We're talking about a moment at a particular time when the civil rights was just at its birth. And to look at these individuals and to think about their impact of the civil rights movement, what does that look like? And so I'm curious, Robert, when you look at it from a lens,
and as a Black man, Robert,
as a film itself, in the context that it is, do you think for an audience that it frames the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it frames the moment exceptionally well, especially with regards to, we see that the FBI is like spying on Malcolm X. We see, these hurdles that all these men have to jump over, whereas like you're talking about like someone like Jim Brown, right, who is very worried that his like male Black body, which is being used by the NFL, is going to basically just get used up down to the drip, and him trying to figure out a way to get out of that, to navigate that, to get out of this kind of cage that he's in. And I think it's doing a very great job of setting the moment, setting the each person's particular hurdles they have to race over during the 60s at the birth of the civil rights, well, not the birth, but right in the middle of the civil rights movement. And especially with also, like, I think Kathia talked about this earlier with Sam Cooke, right? Talking about from an entertainment perspective. And that's why this setup is so great, because you're talking about each person coming from a different perspective. You have Malcolm coming from a political religious perspective. You have Sam Cooke coming from a music perspective. You have Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali. They're both kind of coming from a sports perspective, though Muhammad Ali, far more like religious in that sense. And so each one of these each person is bringing in with them the baggage of their profession, and each one of their professions obviously is trying to curtail them in some way. And I think it does a really great way on conversation, not just on the different ways that Black men can kind of overcome these things, but also the different societal kind of like restraints that can happen based off what perspective you're coming from.
Okay. It's almost award season. Well, actually, it's award season constantly. What is the big takeaway? I mean, is Regina going to get a nod? And more importantly, will people enjoy this film?
Okay, let's talk semantics. Because unfortunately, we have to talk semantics because if in a perfect world, we would be choosing the best and the rest would take care of it. The beauty about Regina King is that she is a person in the industry that is liked by everyone. She has cemented the Black famous thing, right? You don't win 4 Emmys, an Academy Award because they just want to give a Ting Ting Award to a Black person. I mean, she is, and I'm saying this respectfully, she is beyond talented, but she is one of those artists that has been able to supersede, and people don't look at her just as a Black actress, but as an actress. So having said that, in the year that we live in, with everything going on, with the Academy Award diversifying its membership, it is set up that the gods are aligning for her to become the first Black woman to be nominated for a directing Oscar. Will she win? I don't think so. But I feel like this is what it is because the DGA has been under tremendous pressure for not nominating women, specifically women of color, in years where their picture may be nominated, right? And or the actors are nominated and you're like, did this film direct itself? And I do feel like also she understands how the game is played, right? She understands how to campaign. She did it with Beale Street. She understands the politics of this. Now, the other thing is, and you guys definitely please jump in, let me know, is will Amazon spend the money? They have the money. We're not talking about Neon or Airport where you got to kind of be like, okay, what's our best chance to be in the game? And you choose the one and that's where most of the money is. And then you sprinkle a little bit. Amazon has all of those things. So to me, it's like, you have the perfect star. She understands how it's done. Spend the money and you'll get her across the finish line. Now, everybody else, I think it's we're talking, they're mainly, I think Leslie Odom has a very good shot as best supporting. Ben Aldir too, I don't know, again, I'm not like, is he going to best actor or is he also going to be shoved in supporting? Do you know what I mean? That's the $24 million question. But I think those two, as far as the acting, are the ones that are getting the most buzz.
Yeah, she will without doubt get nominated for a best director. That is going to go without, there's no doubt about it. The jury is still out with regards to Leslie, but certainly of that, the actors in that ensemble, Leslie would have the best chances of being nominated.
You guys really think Regina about to be nominated?
Oh, she will be.
Yeah.
How do you keep getting nominated?
I think I agree with Sharronda. I think the model is probably someone like Denzel, right, when he directed Fences, who didn't get the nom that year. And I think one night what's going to hurt it is that it feels a little bit too stagey, that if it doesn't feel like capital D director, directorial effort. And her being an actor and kind of coming out from the outside. And yes, DJ wants to nominate, like a woman of color, but like Chloe Chow's over there for like Nomadland, right? So I think it's actually gonna be a struggle for her to get the nom. I think, One Night Miami has a much better chance with regards to like score for Terrence Blanchard and its script and supporting actor. I think director is kind of like, if it gets all those things and then it gets best picture, then director will probably follow through,
I love it. We finally have some tension in our conversation. Great. We'll see what happens, but this was great, you guys. We're going to next look at Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, directed by George C. Wolfe.
This would be an empty world without the blues. I try to take that emptiness and fill it up with something. But they want to call me Mother Blues, that's all right with me. It don't hurt none.
Way down south and
Where's the horn player?
I got a friend.
Come on, Levy. You rehearse like everybody else.
I'm gonna get me a band and make me some records. I knows how to play real music, not this jug band shit.
You call that playing music?
Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Go on and fire me, I don't care.
When I got there, they began to say.
That's to get the people's attention. That's when you and Slow Drag come in with the rhythm part. Me and Cutler play on the break.
Levy, the sooner you understand it ain't what you say, it's what Ma said to count.
We'll be ready to go in 15 minutes.
We'll be ready to go, and Madam says we're ready to go, and that's the way it go around here.
These records are gonna be hits.
Please come home to me.
Every colored man in the world got to do his part. I'm gonna tell the white man just what he can do.
They don't care nothing about me. All they want is my voice.
About them songs I give you.
They're not the right songs, but I'll take them off your hands for you.
I got my time coming to me.
You don't know nothing about what kind of blood I got, what kind of heart I got, beat here. Come on. Come
on! So yeah, for the most part, I really loved Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I think it's Chadwick Boseman's best performance of his career. It's kind of bittersweet to see his kind of him blossom and see his full range. He's a triple threat. He's dancing, he's singing, he's incredible acting. Not just comedic, but also dramatic. He's having these really big swings he has to go through, these really big emotional changes that he has to kind of go through. And he sells it. He sells everything. Viola Davis is amazing. The script is amazing. The only caveat that I might say is that we were just talking about something being too stagey. It's probably a little bit too stagey. It feels like it needs to be out of that. Most of it, as you guys know, it's in that basement, and it feels like it should be kind of out of that basement a little bit more, just kind of open it up. But for the most part, I think it's a fantastic adaptation, and I think, you know, up and down, it's a fantastic ensemble too.
Yeah, for me, it was crazy watching this because we know that it's Chadwick's last performance. But while watching Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, it truly felt that this was Chadwick's performance of a lifetime. If there is that one movie that you remember someone from, like their best performance, it would definitely be Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So it was a bittersweet experience to actually watch this play out while watching the film. I enjoy Viola, but I didn't feel as strong in the performance outside of that main monologue that we do see that will literally have you reflecting on life and your value within the industry. But I've just seen her stronger in other films, but I still thought that she brought a lot to the movie as well. But overall, it was Chadwick's show. There were still other great performances because this is a strong cast, but the one person that stood out to me is Chadwick. And even though this film is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, it still felt as though that Levy is the star. This is the person that we're supposed to gravitate towards, which after watching it, I was kind of it took me aback because I felt that I should be more gravitated towards Ma Rainey to begin with, but that's just my personal preference. But overall, I did enjoy it. It did feel like a stage production, so it kind of took me out of it at times where I felt that it wasn't as compelling, but it's definitely one of the best Black films for me. I was really happy with this overall.
You know, when you think about, it's interesting we're having these conversations about stage, because this film, you know, is one of those Wilsonian classics that really focuses on how the actor develops the character and what they bring into that space. And this is what we see over and over in Chadwick's performance. It's how he interprets Levy into this whirlwind of a person, right? And you're just watching him do his thing. And he's able to not only bring the words, but bring that character to life in a way that speaks towards that experience so authentically. that it's too powerful for me. I mean, I remember watching it, and like you were saying, Robert, it's just kind of weird to see one of his best performances of all time, and then know you're never going to see it again. You know, so I love the film. I get your point that it does feel a little stagey, but I think that's the brilliance of it. When we think about Fences, it's the same thing, and we have to. I feel these films stand out because they're able to create the world that was meant for the stage and make it bigger and accessible for me. And that's just one of the things I love about this film. So it's definitely one of my top.
I agree with Ed. I'm like a huge August Wilson fan, August Wilson fan. This is the second of the 10 plays, right? And the beauty of August is he created these works for us to give our experience, to give these different looks. The sad part about it is where these plays would take place are super inaccessible to our community because it's so expensive to see a Broadway show. Even when it goes on the road and it comes to you, do you know what I mean? Like for you to sit in the cheap seats, we're talking $50, $75, do you know what I mean? So what this does is like Ed said, it brings it to the living room, and hopefully, I pray it inspires the younger generation to read more of his plays, to want to see that work, to save up their coins and go on that church trip and say, I want to see an August Wilson play in person. Do you know what I mean? And to me, it's the dialogue that's so specific to us, to our community. And I do like the fact that it's a little stagey. Do you know what I mean? I'm so glad they brought in George Wolfe, because he understands the mechanics of this work. He has done this before. He knows these characters, and he knows how to push these actors to get to that place. As wonderful as Chadwick is, and absolutely we should be talking about him, and he does overpower Viola, right? And also give kudos to Viola, who's comfortable enough in her skin as an artist not to be, you know, some people would get in their egos, like, what do you mean? Everybody's talking about him, like you didn't do this. To let him do his thing. But to me, also someone that really, that no matter what film he's in, that we can't take our eyes off is Coleman Domingo. To me, Chadwick can't go where he needs to go if they don't have that tension. They're like the yin and the yang, right? He is everything that Chadwick's character is not. He understands, he's been with Ma longer. He understands how to navigate this world as a Black man and still be where you need to be. You know what I mean? He understands what Chadwick's character is trying to do, but he also is like, you got to wait your turn. We're not there yet as Black people for you to be going rogue, especially at the expense of a Black woman. Like, he's trying to give him the jewels, but Chadwick's character is young. So I do love their scenes together. And again, Coleman Domingo has something very special about him. No matter what movie he's in, I don't care how good somebody else is, you're going to do this. You're going to pay attention to what he's doing. And that's a lot of confidence to have, to be in a friggin' play or a movie with Viola Davis, Chadwick, and you're like, I'm going to go for my moments. I am not going to play small. I am going to come and step forward. And I think all of that, and also Glenn Thurman, who's in what, his 7th or 8th act in his career, it's just beautiful to see that type of artistry. I would, me personally, and I love this film, I just felt like we didn't get a good sense of who Ma was, because we're so enamored with everything else going on. Do you know what I mean? It is called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, but did we learn about Ma?
You know, I have to agree with you, Kathia. I felt the same thing. And, you know, it's funny when you have a film like this, I don't know, my expectations were just maybe running a little too high. And when I watched it, I just sort of felt, wow, it seems like there's something missing in what they gave us of her. But maybe that was the intention, you know? I mean, in any case, I mean, it was a tour de force performances by all. In addition to Glenn Turman, you had Michael Potts. And yeah, I think it's certainly going to be something that we'll all be watching out for as we enter award season. So next, we're going to take a look at The Five Bloods by Spike Lee.
Black GI, is it fair to serve more than the white Americans that sent you here? Nothing is more confused than to be ordered into a war to die without the faintest idea of what's going on. I dedicate this next record to the soul brothers of the 1st Infantry Divisions. Be safe.
Gentlemen, welcome back to Vietnam.
Look what I found.
You're the man in all his glory.
Who was that guy?
That brother was the best damn soldier that ever lived. We bury it. Later on, we come back and collect.
I shall resign the presidency.
Being back here, it is not easy.
Now the time has come. Time's no place to run.
I'm broken, man. So what, you blaming yourself? You don't even know.
No! I've been loved and put aside. I've been crushed by tumbling tide. And my soul has been psychedelicized.
We've been dying for this country from the very get.
Now the time has come. There are things to realize.
We give this gold
Has come today.
to our people.
Hold on!
In my line of work, I have to be very careful. And that means knowing exactly who I am in business with.
You know, what Spike Lee has done with this film, but really just helping put some respect on some actors who have really been Black actors who have been in this business for a long time. There were some great performances. Delroy Lindo is such a huge standout to me. There are just so many moments where I was just like, yes, this is where they're going to play the awards reel. Go ahead and give him his Oscar now, whatever we needed. He deserves it. But I think that really talking about how much blood that we've shed for this country. You know, we really sit and talk about slavery all the time, but we don't talk about how our Black men, even Black women helping in various ways, like in the wars in Vietnam, where we're focusing on in the Five Bloods. I think that it's really important that the stories are told, that even while we were fighting for our rights as humans, to just be recognized as a human being in America, that we were still spilling our blood overseas in a war that necessarily, in some opinions, didn't concern us, but as a way to really once again reach out to white America and say, hey, we're American too, and we deserve to be treated just as equally. And I think the way in the screenplay, from the stills that we hear, how Spike Lee really shows this to the audience, how they correlate the effects, the psychological effects that this has had on Black men who have served in various wars in America. I think that is beautifully done. I don't think that they tried to hold back whatsoever. And I think that that's something, especially with everything that we're talking about with Black Lives Matter in the country today, I think that it was something that was very needed, right on time, but also to remind you that this is an ongoing struggle that we really need to make greater leaps and bounds. Outside of that, overall, I enjoyed it. The only thing that I will say as a criticism, at times it did feel a little bit too long. I felt like the movie kind of diverged into a whole different genre of film in the second act, that I felt that it could have been condensed a little bit to make it a little bit more palatable for the audience to enjoy.
I liked some of the things that you were saying about, you know, respecting, you know, how Blacks have been a part of America's fabric, especially when it comes to wartime, that tends to get overlooked. I think that's really important. When I was thinking about the film, you know, growing up watching war films all my life, you know, you think about, this is Spike Lee's Deer Hunter, right? This is that moment where he can capture the consequence of the war that you're in, as opposed, and then you realize that the war never left you, right? Which we see over and over again. We've seen so many, Born on 4th of July, But the thing was, your interview said that, Sharronda, about the second act of this film, the second half of the film, is that, it's not just a war film. It's about Black people. It's about reunion, but it's also a heist film, right? It has a lot of heisty moments to it that you weren't really expecting all of that to be there. But then there's something just really interesting too, which is, you get into the Delroy Lindo's character and you kind of focus on his performance. And you always we know how talented and a tour de force that he is, but we tend to, especially when it comes to war films, there's usually that one character that always stands out, right? Whether it's Platoon or Apocalypse Now, there's always somebody who stands out, even in Three Kings. I hated that movie, but there we go. So anyway, that being said, there's always someone who stands out because they're speaking the truth of that moment, right? That's the truth. And Delroy spoke that quintessential truth about understanding the consequences of what this war meant to Black people, and understanding the pain, because he wasn't just being a Black soldier. He was a converted Republican MAGA hat wearing Black man. And it was the reason you're like, what is his story? And he lets all of that loose. They say you leave it on the floor. He left everything on the floor and you just had to just take it in. It was so powerful. And that's what I think Spike wanted to do, is to show not just, these talented actors who have been around and know how to carry these characters, but also to give them life in a way that we have all known aunts and uncles who were those people. And I think it makes it such a humane war story that I think is important to be part of our canon. And I think Spike deserves all the credit that he's getting for doing this film.
First of all, it shouldn't have taken this long for the Black man's experience about the Vietnam War to come to screen. That's the first thing. I'm glad he made everybody read the Five Bloods, the books, which really will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. What these men went through, they literally turned into savages. And I don't say that to belittle anybody, because you do what you have to come home. We are, a lot of us that are 70s, early 80s babies, we are the children of that generation. A lot of us have relatives that, growing up, there was something else going on with them. They didn't sit still in a certain way. We couldn't be loud in a certain way around them. When you're a kid, you're like, why? You know what I mean? You don't quite understand. But going back into it as an adult, you're like, oh, that's why. That's why so-and-so needed to live in the country. That's why they didn't want to we couldn't have them with 50 people around. And Delroy Lindo, did something really important, I think, is showed post-traumatic stress syndrome up front and close. And something else, which a lot of Black men that I know have served, have members of my family that have served, that have said, I literally, went through everything for this country, and I'm still not considered a man. Or I hate it too. I love, all the movies that Tom Hanks has made, but I'm always like, so did white people only fight in this? Or when we do get a Black actor, as in Private Ryan, right? He's Italian. Oh, he's racially ambiguous. It's so important that we have these conversations. And again, I love the fact that these men are sitting there saying, yeah, we did come here. And at some point, what the dialogue from this is, we didn't fight for freedom anymore. We fought for each other. We fought to help each other get the hell out of here. And I think that's an important conversation, and I hope we explore more in film, and I'm glad that Spike did. But Delroy Lindo, what he does in this film is freaking amazing. You feel his pain, the fact that he's wearing the Magna hat, although you're like, oh man, you understand it. You understand it, you know what I mean? I love the guys in this. I'm a huge Clark Peters fan too, who is, another one of those actors that has just been around forever. And I also love that, again, Chadwick, so hard to talk about him and him not being here, but his role is not a huge role in this film, but the space he takes up, willingly. So I mean, all of those things. And I agree that I did feel this film was just a tad bit too long, but I understand also Spike was trying to get a lot in there to please a community that is dying to see themselves. So that's my only little, just could have been a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to pull from everyone in this, but Sharronda, especially with it feeling like two different movies, kind of feels like three different movies. The first part being Treasure of the Sierra Madre kind of riff, and then the second part, which is kind of like Rambo, and the third that's like this very like large political statement, and it's I've just had this isn't Spike Lee's first attempt at a war film. Miracle at St. Anna is the other one. I think this is far better than Miracle. Miracle, it feels like Spike Lee's humor is taking over these very serious moments, whereas here it feels like that humor is regulated a bit, and it pops when it needs to. He knows kind of when to kind of step back when he needs to, and I love Chadwick in this film too. We had the opening montage and we're seeing all these kind of assassinations and stuff like that. And then we see obviously Chadwick at the end where he's kind of like emblematic of all these, fallen Black leaders that haven't had the chance to actually, age into retirement, so to speak. So I think in this film, Spike Lee is very well aware of using people as totems to represent, greater ideals and greater thoughts and greater passages and kind of post-Vietnam history. And I think for the, as everyone has said, don't want to keep repeating, but it is a little bit too long. But yeah, I loved it.
Well, next we're going to move on to Sylvie's Love, directed by Eugene Ash.
Tell me about this new boy at the store. Hey, what's your favorite song on this?
You don't know what love is.
I am not answering that. Is he cute? I didn't really notice. That much.
My band's playing tonight at 9 if you want to come. Never met a girl who knows as much about music as you do. And television.
Don't get me started. I've seen every episode of everything. How was it? He's extraordinary.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Can I walk you? Life's too short to waste time on things you don't absolutely love.
But how do you know if you love something absolutely?
I guess when it's the only thing that matters. The band got offered a gig in Paris. Come with us on tour.
I'm afraid I can't. But I think you very well could be the next John Coltrane.
What are you gonna be?
If this is love. WNAT television.
Calling about the assistant producer position. Are you married?
Yes.
Hey.
Producer's assistant's not the best job for a housewife. Why should I hire you?
Because I didn't know that a Negro woman television producer even existed. And all my life, that is all I've ever wanted to be. It's been a long time since I felt the way that I do now. Robert.
Sylvie?
What are you doing in New York?
Recording an album.
So good to see you.
You too.
It's been a while since I smiled.
You're working? You're not being a very good hostess, and what will people say?
I can't be the woman of your dreams while also trying to be the woman of my own.
I guess I just wanted you to be happy. Even if I couldn't be a part of your life.
Pleasant experiences ahead. Don't pass it by.
I love this film. I thought it was lush. I love the coloring. I love that when we look at films like this, our love stories tend to be gritty. They tend to we have to add something to the mix in order for it to sound and resonate to be us. Our love can't be just joyous and happy. It has to have more controversy about who we are as people. And this film is not that. It's not light, but it lives in its own truth about our human condition that is universal, as opposed to this kind of gratuitous Hollywood stigma that we put on Black love. And to watch this film and to just see those very tender moments and how they were so delicately done, paired with this beautiful soundtrack, that kind of rise along with them was just really powerful. I really enjoyed this film. It was just kind of an unexpected joy for me. But because I typically don't like love stories that much, but I really, like when I first saw it, I was thinking a lot of Far From Heaven, just how we portray Black men and the trials that they go through. And yet there's still something that beautiful just kind of bubbles to the surface, no matter the outcome. And even in this, I was like, oh my God, please don't let it go this way. I was just kind of like grabbing the pillow saying, how is this love story going to end? And, but it falls out, the whole Valentine trope, all those things are always there. And yet I don't feel trapped in my Black skin. I love my Black skin because of it, because when I saw this story, I want more of these stories.
Ed, you may have said it all. Maybe you shut it down again, man.
Let me just tell you, this has been the year where two things on my list have finally come to fruition. Black love story and Black people in period pieces and We're Not a Slave. Both things have come true. I love everything about this film. I love them as a couple. I'm going to talk about something completely different about this film that helps with the costuming, the way they dressed Nnamdi, tailored to a T. It helps the fluidity of him and his movement. He's super handsome, right? But the two of them, the way they were shot, the lighting helps with the whole feel of the movie, the music. Like we're rooting for this couple. And also I love that we show women being empowered. I don't want to give it away, but something happens where it doesn't end her life. It doesn't end her ambition, which I think is important too, because we tend to show women when certain things happen to them that, oh, that's it. All your hopes and dreams, everything is done. You got to live this type of life. But I loved everything about this film. And it was a warm hug after seeing some sad things at Sundance. And I was like, oh, I just wanted to sit there and bask in it. And again, we need more of this, and just gorgeous.
Last but not least, we'll discuss Bad Boys for Life, which, was probably one of the most successful films of the year, given COVID.
I'm done, Mike. I'm retiring. Uh-oh, here we go again. You want your legacy to be muscle shirts and body counts?
Look at this mess, it's carnage.
I didn't do all this.
You didn't shoot anybody?
Well, come on, Cap, you know I shot some people.
Yeah. Fuck me! Fuck!
In these streets, I never trusted anybody but you. I'm asking you, man. Bad Boys.
One last time. One last time.
I'm the definition of half man, half drugs. Ask the clubs, bad boy, that's what's up.
He's driving through a mall.
We're not just black, we're cops too. We'll pull ourselves over later.
It's official. I survived what I've been through. Y'all got drama, the saga continues. Bad boys. We ain't going nowhere.
You were right about the glasses. I've been telling your ass for a year.
We can't be stopped now.
Shit, Mike. These are like HD.
Cause it's bad boy for life. We ain't going nowhere. Cause it's bad boy for life.
Bad boys, bad boys.
Hey,
what you gonna do? What you gonna do when we come in?
No, never. Y'all will never do that again.
Yeah, and you fucking up the lyrics, which take a long time to learn.
This is just, this is not a movie you watch for that. This is just, you want to go zone out for a little bit. We see two of our favorite actors having a good time. That's this movie. There's nothing extraordinary going on on the screen. It's just, that's it.
For me, it was great. After Will Smith's had kind of a tough last decade or so, trying to find like juicy roles or they're kind of worth his time. And on paper, it felt like Bad Boys was going to be kind of a paycheck. And instead, he gives a great performance. It's a great movie. There's not much. It's a dumb action film, but of the variety of dumb action films, it's a great dumb action film.
Let me tell y'all something. Y'all finna put some respect on Bad Boys for Life, okay? Because it is the highest grossing film of 2020, okay? It also let us know that Black people can lead, Black people can be funny, Black people can be action stars, and those movies can actually make money in the box office. So I just needed to get that out real quick. But also, too, that they can have a storyline that, I mean, at this point, how many Bad Boys films do we have? They're probably going to make another one at this point in time. And I like that we can just kind of escape the seriousness. When we're talking about all the other films that we have right now, they're about very serious topics, about very serious things that have happened to us, the Black experience in America. And it's nice to just be able to escape from that, to just laugh, to really just be amongst us, to understand Black comedy, to understand how things will differ in a Black action movie. And I think that that's what Bad Boys for Life does. And I think that it was a surprise of 2020 before the world ended as we know it. And a reassurance that Black people can command the attention of the box office and people are interested in Black stories, no matter the genre.
I'm gonna say, amen, Sharronda. Yeah, you got a good point. I do think that what we really forgot what a franchise Bad Boys actually is, and what we saw in this was Columbia and Will basically saying, we have franchise potential here and we're going to make that work. We've already seen the TV show. We obviously, the way the movie ended, we know there's possibly going to be a sequel. We see a new team of technical police officers. It's a franchise. It's a new tentpole for them. But I agree. I mean, it's a great popcorn film. It's nostalgic. Who doesn't love a good buddy cop film? It's interesting that they both kind of moved into the Lethal Weapon roles, but I thought that was kind of humorous. But yeah, it's really, I actually enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I hated the first one. But I actually really enjoyed this one. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad it made money, asterisk because of COVID, but I'm glad that I'm just messing with you, Sharronda. I'm just messing with you. No, but it's really a good film. And I think that, to wrap up 2020, we need more movies like this that show us in all of our facets, including being mindless action films.
Well, Sharronda, Kathia, Ed, and Robert, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing with us your thoughts about the films that came out during this year. It was a difficult year, but Hollywood made it through once again with some pretty decent content. So kudos to them. I thank you, and we will see you all very soon. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film critics, thank you and have a great day. God bless.